name is Margaret Page, and I am Toastmasters International President-elect and will be your MC for this showcase. Congratulations to all three contestants who share this global virtual stage as first, second, and third place winners of the World Championship of Public Speaking. Members and guests, meet the 2021 World Championship winners. World Champion Verity Price. Second place winner, Nita Yair Levy. And our third place winner, Roger Caesar. During today's showcase, we are going to speak with each winner for a few minutes. But first, I invite our new world champion, Verity, to enjoy 2 minutes to share acknowledgements with our audience. Over to you, Verity.
Thank you so much, Margaret. I must say 2 minutes to say what I have to say would take a lifetime, but I have 120 seconds, so I will start with the 2 most important words, which are thank you. I'm so humbled and happy and grateful to have received this title today. I'm going to be pinching myself for weeks to come. Thank you to my club, Toasted Toastmasters, to my incredible District 74, Southern Africa, who have supported me and sent me messages saying it's time for Africa. And today we discovered that it was. I am blown away to be the first winner of this title in Africa. I hope that I have broken the proverbial 4-minute mile for all speakers on this incredible continent, because I really believe that this title can come back to Africa many, many times. Thank you to my husband, who has looked after our little boy so I could stay in the bedroom and deliver speeches at all the incredible clubs that have opened their doors to me across the world. It's been the most extraordinary journey. I want to also give a big shout out to Prez Vasilev for his amazing, compelling storytelling course that I bought at the start of my journey and used to help me craft my final speech. And then my really big shout out to my coach, Lance Miller, my favorite world champ of all time, and to have had the privilege of have you coach me, Lance, and bring me to this point. I'm absolutely blown away. It's been extraordinary. But mostly to you, to Toastmasters International, to the audiences that have made this possible for all of us, and to my fellow contestants, to share this stage with you. I know only 3 of us could be at the top, but all 8 speeches today blew me away. To my semi-finalists, to all the dreams that were born in this contest and they're going to come back to the stage next year. I can't wait to see what you bring. But if I can leave you with nothing else, it's that right now I'm sitting in a room similar to one that for many years felt like a prison. And today it's shown me that a prison can turn into a platform. And coming from South Africa, where our biggest inspiration, Nelson Mandela, took imprisonment and turned it into a platform for change, I believe that as speakers and as leaders, we can all do that. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I am so grateful to be your world champion, and I'm going to be pinching myself for days to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Verity, for your gracious and inspiring words. You have thanked a lot of people along your personal journey who have influenced your success up to this very moment. These acknowledgements are indicators of a true Toastmaster leader. Congratulations again. Later in the showcase, we will ask the winners questions submitted by those of you watching us live today. If you would like to submit a question, please use the Q&A feature on the platform. Type in your question and hit send. We will do our very best to get to as many questions as possible, but please be aware we may not have time to get to all your questions. So first, I have a few questions for our winners. I'd like to go back to Verity again and ask, what does it feel like to be the 2021 World Champion of Public Speaking? Take us through the range of emotions you have experienced in the last few hours since you were declared the world champion of public speaking?
Margaret, I think I will feel what it feels like tomorrow when I wake up. At the moment, I honestly can say I feel like I'm in a bubble, but I was so privileged. I got to watch with a whole lot of family and friends the first time in a long time that I had quite a few people with me. And when it was announced, the joy around me of the people that believe in me and support me, I just felt like it flooded through my whole body. And we danced and we sang and we just celebrated. We felt like we'd won a World Cup. And I just feel so grateful. And I think for me right now, what's settling in is that the last 6 months and everything I've learned, now it's time for me to figure out how I share that and how I give that back, especially into my district and into my fellow members, because I've got lots that I can share now to make this journey easier for the ones who come behind me. But I'm just over the moon.
We can see that and feel that for you. But many people would like to be in your shoes right now and share what that immediate onrush of attention feels like.
Also overwhelming. I haven't had a chance to get to all the messages, and they've been flooding in throughout this journey and I'm sure all my fellow contestants have had this since winning district. You just have people that believe in you, that reach out, that take the time to send messages on social media platforms or WhatsApp. And I have felt so connected. And I think the big thing for me that's come through this journey is alone I can't, together we can. And I'm sure all my contestants will agree, none of us have given a speech that we wrote by ourselves. It's from the feedback that we've received, that we've implemented, we've changed, we've grown. So I can't wait to get to all the messages and reply to everyone. But wow, thank you. Thank you for everything that's flooding in.
Indeed, together we can, right? Yeah. So Nita Yair, I'd like to go to you. How does it feel to be the second place winner of the 21 World Championship of Public Speaking? Take us through the range of emotions you have felt.
I don't think I even realized that yet, the magnitude of that achievement. As Verity said, there's a lot of work that goes through it. There's a lot of people that help you. And it's just a moment in time of something that we've been happening for a very long time. And there's a lot of people I need to thank for that moment. So I'll echo Verity. I think only tomorrow that will settle in, and only tomorrow I'll realize what has been achieved, and time to get ready for next year.
Thank you. Yes, indeed, tomorrow. Nita Yair, what lasting impression do you hope your speech made on the audience? If members are talking about your speech 1 year from now, what one thing would you like them to be saying?
In terms of the final speech, is my message, which perhaps sounds simple, but very hard to do, is to show love to those who are important to you, because they're there the whole time and you take them sometimes for granted. I have throughout my past, especially with my own mother, which I love very much. And it's very easy to take people for granted when they really shouldn't be, because their love to you is what propels you forward. So always show your love, as simple as that, and as hard as it may not be to do.
Thank you for those beautiful words. Roger, how does it feel to be there on this big virtual platform as the third place winner of the 21 World Championship of Public Speaking?
It feels amazing, absolutely amazing. It's surreal. And I echo what my fellow contestants said. You go through all this process, the amount of work, the coaching, the feedback that you get, the support from all those around you. I mean, you go through the entire process and all you hope for is a chance. And that's what it comes down to, a chance to get here so that you could spread your message and be able to inspire others. I mean, for me, my message was that, to inspire others to find their greatness. And I think by looking at all of these people, Verity and Nitair and the other competitors today, that's what they were doing, trying to inspire our audience in our own way through our stories. and make sure that they also can find their greatness in some way, shape, or form. So I'm thrilled, absolutely thrilled to be here.
Well, we certainly found your greatness. Roger, what inspired you to write and speak about what has now become your winning speech entitled, Is It In You?
Well, I'll take you back to the speech that I did in the semifinals. And my father and I have had this relationship where there are moments when I was just cringing about him. And then there are moments when I realized, wow, he's such a great man. And my mom has always been that verbal influence in my life. And I felt that it was important that I bring the two together and show how much they have meant to me. My parents mean the world to me. My sister, yeah, she means something to me too. She will not be singing anywhere, and that is okay with me, but she means a lot to me. But my parents, they have done so much hard work throughout the years, and the lessons that I have learned along the way have been so instrumental in who I am today. And I'm proud, and that's why I wanted people to understand that sometimes we don't see those who are inspiring us, and they're right in front of us. They're right there. Verity had her dad, Natire had his mom. These are people that we don't see what they're actually doing for us, and then all of a sudden it clicks. They're important to us. So this is what I wanted people to understand, how valuable those people are around us. And I have so many people to thank along the way.
Indeed, those families mean so much to us and teach us so much about life. Here's a question that I'd love for all three of you to answer. How did you modify your speech for A, your virtual audience, and B, for your international audience? And we'll go to Verity first.
Thank you, Margaret. A lot of my modifications happened from practicing with clubs around the world, and it was so helpful for me because there was things in my speech, like we lived in what we call a caravan, but when I practiced in the United States, they were like, we would call it a camper van. And then I could just tweak and change words slightly, which was so helpful. And in terms of the virtual space, I think where we're lucky is we've had a year and a half of getting used to doing this virtually. I was so inspired watching last year's contest, and particularly Mike Carr's winning speech and how he used the screen. So, he and his fellow contestants paved the way for me to play in this format. So that for me wasn't the difficult part. What was exciting for me was getting the feedback from audiences in Bangladesh and India, Australia, UK, America, and just finding language and imagery that had as broad a universal connection. Otherwise, if I'm only getting feedback in South Africa, we often don't realize that we're just coming from one point of view. Without this virtual world, I don't know if I would have been able to make it as accessible as I feel I did in the end.
It was a real advantage this year, wasn't it? And yes, and you are truly all pioneers here. Natire, how did you modify your speech for A, your virtual audience, and B, your international audience?
This is a very, very interesting question, Margaret, and I'll answer it in two levels. I think for me, this is about creating art. It's called the art of public speaking, not public speaking. And when you look at it as art, you need to go outside of the box and go as crazy as you can, and then tone it down based on feedback. And I had great coaches this year. Press Vasilov coached me this year, and I thank him very much. And Lou Beaton, who is listening, I hope, thank you as well. And the reason I mentioned that is because you take these crazy ideas and then they help you tone it down to what's maybe palatable to the audience as opposed to scare the audience. Some of the stuff I wanted to do perhaps were too extreme for the virtual sense, but the feedback that you get is great. So that's number one. You need that circle of confidence. And obviously Bill and Sherry helped on that too. The other thing is the clubs visits, and the greatest advantage, I'm a fairly new Toastmaster. I'm only 2 years and a bit Toastmaster. And this year, people like Kit Hardy and Janet and Alicia as well opened the door for me, because I don't know many clubs, to visit over, 70 clubs around the world. And when you test the messages, especially in my semi-final speech, in Africa or in Vietnam or in Singapore or in the United States, and I think Verity touched on a very important point, your message needs to be global, needs to be simple and global. You can't use terms that people won't understand in different countries, and I have originally at the beginning. So the feedback is extremely important, a simple message, but the key to me is to focus on your message and deliver it in an artful way. If I can summarize it, I just focus on the art, but support your message. Yeah.
I love that phrasing, that public speaking is an art, and that is truly absolutely correct. Roger, it's your turn now. How did you modify your speech for your virtual audience and for your international audience?
Well, for my final speech, I had created that speech a few years ago. And when I was, again, as many of you have said already, I worked with Prez Veselev as well in the first part of it, in trying to create it and have it for the in-person audience. And I remember once we realized, of course, now that we were going to be doing it online, there's a lot of things that you have to change. I mean, some of the things that you would have in your speech, and I'm sure that many of my other fellow contestants can say the same thing, is that you may have a moment where you're connected with an audience and you're looking one-on-one with them. Well, now you're only looking at this little screen right here, and you're trying so hard to make sure that you can still bring your message through, and they would feel it on the other side of that lens. And that was what I had to change when it came to this speech. So I worked with Craig Valentine this year, and he was instrumental in helping me to develop the funny parts, the emotional parts, how to bring it so that it can connect. But most importantly, two people that I must thank, and that is Catherine McKenzie, who is the greatest coach ever, and also Neil Dunsmore, who is a great friend of mine. And we worked tirelessly to make sure that we were able to work through this little screen here and make it work. And with regards to the global side of it, I will say this. Our stories are a gateway to our souls, and it's the pathway to the audience's heart. And what we try to do is make sure that when, at least for myself, whatever message that I'm sending out there, it is going to be universal. You know, our stories are personal, but our message has to be universal. And that's was the key, to do something that, yes, could be personal in my story, but the message itself, everybody can take away from. And that was important to me.
We did definitely feel all 8 speeches. They were just so remarkable, and definitely you captured our souls with that entry point there. So I have another question for all 3 of you. How has Toastmasters helped you personally and professionally? But this time we will start with Nitai Yair. Would you like to answer the first time for the first?
Oh God, I'm going to embarrass myself now, but heck with it, let's do it. So when I got married to my wife, Simone, my nickname for her is Bundle of Love with Big Brown Eyes. That's what the name Big Brown Eyes come from. That's my nickname for her. And that's why I named all the other characters based on the eyes. And we got married. Yeah? And she's not a Toastmaster. I wasn't a Toastmaster at the time. And she did this speech in our wedding, and she killed it. She would have beat everyone today on the speech. I'm biased, by the way. Sorry, Verity. So and then I did my speech, and it was a disaster. It was an absolutely bomb in my own wedding. And I thought, okay, that needs to change. that is not good. And I was very, believe it or not, very shy. I'm still very shy. And I don't necessarily feel comfortable speaking in front of large audience. So the Toastmasters journey, I joined this club in City Tassel Club, which I represent today. And it took me 6 months to do my icebreaker. I was that afraid, 6 months to do my icebreaker. But once I did my icebreaker, my mentor, Mike Kenner McCallum, and Peter Anderson as well, immediately came and said, you need to do the international speech contest on the same year. And what it did, what Toastmasters environment or the mentors that I have in Toastmasters did, they gave me confidence. And the thing is, you have a skill set, but until you have the confidence to use the skill set, it's just a skill set that is buried somewhere underneath the ground. So what it did, it elevated the confidence, but beyond that, it created a network of supporters and people who help you push toward your dream going forward. And that is something that just doesn't exist anywhere else. People you don't even, there's some people who help me who I haven't even met physically. Who I haven't even met, and they live in the US, I live in Australia. And I just, it's incredible. So how did it help me? Confidence, absolutely confidence. You know, we all have something burning inside. The question is, how do you bring it out? For me, that was Toastmasters.
That was a beautiful story, beautiful, beautiful story. And I hope we'll hear the speech about you and your wife a full 5 to 7 minutes on another time. But thank you for that. And the Toastmaster family is definitely remarkable. We are a unique organization. Only things like that happen here. Roger, your turn. How has Toastmasters helped you personally and professionally?
Well, I'll share my story. When I took over the family business, I used to walk into a lot of the companies that we work with, and they knew me while my dad was around as just, hey, it's Roger. How you doing, Roger? What's going on? And when I took over the business, you saw the change in how they reacted to me. And it was more like, oh, here's the owner. So let's see what he's about. And I remember sitting in an executive office one day, and he had just become the new supervisor of the company that we work with. And it was the first time ever I encountered trying to speak to an introvert. And I had no idea how to have a conversation with him. And I remember leaving his office and coming back to mine and saying some words that I can't say because we're Toastmasters. I couldn't say it. And of course, I looked up how to improve my speaking abilities. And that's how I got into Toastmasters. And I'll never forget my first speech that I did when I did my icebreaker. There was a gentleman there named Sanjay Sharma. And once I finished, he came over and he tapped my shoulders. And I think everybody has one of these stories, I'm hoping. But he tapped my shoulder after and he goes, you're going to be a champion one day. I can feel it. I know it. I know it in my soul. And I laughed at him. Well, I'm not laughing anymore. Thank you, Sanjay, for that. So that's where it is for me. Personally and professionally, Toastmasters has helped me build my confidence and be able to feel comfortable speaking, whether in person or right now on the virtual stage.
Thank you for sharing that story too. Very special and precious. I guarantee no one said that to me. You will be champion. So they only say it to those that have it within them. Well done, Roger. Verity, how has Toastmasters helped you personally and professionally?
I joined Toastmasters for fun 10 years ago. My sister had joined it to overcome her fear of public speaking, and I used to go to meetings just to support at Two Oceans Toastmasters. And I loved it, and I would do table topics, and I thought it was great. I was a professional singer and already speaking at the time. So it was really like, this is something interesting for me to do once a month. But I was also moments away from living in the spare room and suffering from quite severe depression and anxiety. And so how Toastmasters helped me was personally, it put me into an organization where suddenly I had a purpose bigger than myself. I was invited to join the committee, and I joined as a treasurer and someone who did very bad at maths. I couldn't believe they were trusting me with the books. But suddenly I was part of a team, and I actually joined a second club so that I would have a reason to get up on a Wednesday morning and go to a meeting. I was really suffering from bad depression at the time. And it was a conscious choice. This organization is going to help me. There's people here, there's community, there's a sense of camaraderie. And so I kept showing up. And I had to overcome my arrogance that I was already sorted as a speaker, because my sister Kay in the club contest in 2012 beat me, and I was very unimpressed because she'd only done a CC6. And she went on to come second to Ryan Avery in the semi-finals that year. And I suddenly learned that you need to read the manual, and there's always something you could learn, and you have to be mentored, and you can't think you know everything. And so I'm only here today because I've spent 9 years listening in this organization, taking feedback, and leaning into the leadership opportunities it's given me, because that's where it's really changed me. It's changed the way I run my business. Well, after being treasurer, I've never struggled to get money out of a client again. It's been amazing. So it's been life-changing. And I might gloss over the fact that I was in a spare room eating ice cream and Netflix, but it was a very dark time in my life. And this organization gave me purpose through that. So I will be forever grateful and forever looking for ways to give back to this organization.
We're so thankful that you got over the ice cream and the Netflix binging for sure. And thank you for that about reading the manual. Now the project, right? You have to read. Yes, do the work together. Thank you all for those answers. They were beautiful. But right now we want to hear from Verity on how many times have you presented that speech you gave during the World Championship of Public Speaking, and what did your coaches or mentors say or do that made the difference in your decision to pursue this world champion title?
So the speech I gave today, I wrote exactly 100 days ago. And the reason I know that is it came to me at 2 a.m, and the original version, although very similar to the story I told today, was also sharing that I had done one of the things I did based on my father's advice was a 100 happy days challenge, to just take pictures of things that made me happy. And so when I wrote the speech, I thought, you know what? And I looked at the date and I was like, gosh, it's exactly 100 days till the World Finals. And if this was the speech I would give, I'm going to do my 100 happy days while I give the speech. And really today has been the happiest day of my life. But I've given the speech hundreds of times. It's changed its message multiple times, and through working with Lance Miller as my coach, and he just gently pushed me and guided me. He didn't ever kind of push me into directions I didn't want to go in, but he held the space for me to question decisions I was making, try different things. And through the feedback I had, we only ended up at Write a Different Story 2 weeks ago. And I actually would like to, so the same speech, just the thread came through, and that was feedback from a Toastmaster in South Africa. And he made one comment in his evaluation to me, and it made me relook at the whole speech, and suddenly it just came together. So I will be forever grateful. And that is why I say to anyone, if you choose to go on this journey, deliver your speech to as many people as you can. Suck it up, take the feedback. It's not always easy. My ego has been bruised, and some of it's been brutal, but I've had to listen and go, is there something? And if 3 people have said the same thing, am I open to change? So I have been giving this speech for 100 days. It has changed me, it has shaped me, it has challenged me. But I would never do it any other way other than rewriting and redelivering and tweaking and changing. Up until the day of the finals, there was little moments that were still coming to me. So I'm sure there's 10 other versions I could give, but I'm very grateful that I've now done it.
Well, that was outstanding to hear how many times it takes, and really how long you have to work at something till that ultimate idea, that concept, that really getting it within you, how long that can sometimes take. So for all of us, we need to keep working. We have so many questions from the audience. We're going to go to audience questions now. So the first one is, there is a thin line between being vulnerable and oversharing. How do each of you navigate this fine line? So let's go to Roger first, and then Nita Yair.
That is an absolutely great question. The reality is as speakers, the way you connect with your audience is being vulnerable, is allowing them to see that inner human side of you. I think it's very important to share that. Now, the thin line, yes, you don't want to share too much sometimes because you don't want to expose yourself. But I kind of look at it from a different perspective, and that is that there is somebody in that audience, whether we are in person or virtually, there's somebody there that is waiting to hear a particular message. And sometimes when we as speakers go out there and we speak, it could take just you opening up yourself and talking about something that has happened to you that will help that one person in the audience. And I'll give you a quick example. I went and I spoke once at an open house, and I talked about, fear in an event that had happened to me before. And this gentleman came up to me after the event, and he said, "You know what? It's funny you did that. I wasn't going to come here today, but somebody said, come and see this guy." And when I finished, he said, "I was going to go to my lawyer's after work at about 4 o'clock today and sign papers to divorce my wife because I thought she was the one that was at fault for everything that happened in our relationship." He said, "After I heard your speech, I realized it was me that needed to change the things that were going on with me. And now we're trying to reconcile it. We're going to go and reconcile things." These are those moments that you as a speaker just go, "Oh, I didn't know I could do that." But that's why being vulnerable and allowing yourself to share your stories, it can help someone else to cure their own problems that they're having.
Absolutely. What a gift this tool is, right? To be able to share with others and have impact on their life and influence them in a positive way. Thank you for doing that. So Nitai Yair, over to you. I'll read the question again to you from the audience. There's a thin line between to being vulnerable and oversharing. How did you navigate this fine line?
The truth is, I'm not sure I'm able to navigate that fine line, and that's the absolute truth. My personal view is this: if there's a message that is burning in you, you need to get it out, and you need to put all the shields and all the walls that you put around you, and just share it. And it makes me emotional now because that's just the truth. And if you share your message raw, people will connect. But you need to be careful. You need to lift them up at the end of it. You need to open your heart, say, "This is who I am." You may not like it, but this is who I am. And then close it and take them back up, because you don't want them more depressed than when they come and say a speech. But unless you go in and show them the real you, I don't believe that there will be any connection. That's my personal view. I'm not probably the best person to answer that question because I don't know how to separate the two. I really don't. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Thank you for that, Cher. You and all of you really did lift us up. You were marvelous at that. All right, Verity, I'll read it again. There's a thin line between being vulnerable and oversharing. How did you navigate this fine line?
So similar to Natia, I am a very honest person. My name means truth, so I tend to speak about what I've dealt with. But I think the line for me is, and I can't remember where I heard this, but they say you should never speak about something until you can laugh about it. So even if it was a heartbreaking, shameful, difficult situation, don't speak about it until you've dealt with it. So I tend to talk about quite difficult things that I've gone through, and I can laugh at myself, and I'm not afraid to share my flaws. I'm less than perfect, and I talk about that often, but I'm not using my talk as personal therapy. And maybe that is where we see something as oversharing, is we're using the talk to maybe try and process it in front of an audience, whereas the audience, as Natia said, wants to be lifted up. So be honest, be vulnerable. Brené Brown, own your shame. People grow, and Roger said this as well. We don't know how we might shape someone by being honest about what we've struggled with. But I think for me, I share it once I've worked through it. I couldn't have given this speech 6 years ago. I wasn't ready. I can now laugh at myself in the spare room, and there's times I still will eat ice cream and watch Netflix, and that's okay. It's part of my process, but I don't need the audience to heal me. I'm healing myself.
Thank you for that distinction and that share. So this message came from the audience. They wanted to congratulate all three winners, and they would like to know if this is your first attempt at the World Championship of Public Speaking. And we'll let Roger answer that first. Roger.
Great. This is my fourth time. This is the fourth time I have been here. I must admit, I wasn't planning on competing this year. And again, my good friend Neil Dunsmore and I had a conversation, and we said, look, let's just go out there and have a good time and see where it takes us. And so we both decided to compete, and eventually both made it to the district. I was able to come out on top, and he got second. And ever since that point, he has been right beside me. So it was an opportunity again to try something new, which was this virtual platform. But yes, 3 times before, and this I guess is the charm.
And every time you get better and better, right?
Feels very good, honestly. Very, very good. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Verity, how about you? Shall I read the
First
question?
time? No, it's all good. First time was 2012, and I didn't prepare, and my sister beat me at club. And that was when I discovered there was the World Championship of Public Speaking, and it opened my eyes to it. Second time was 2015, and I got as far as division and came third. And the only reason I'm here today is because of lockdown and because of COVID. I became a mother. I had left Toastmasters. And if we hadn't gone virtual and my club Toasted hadn't needed some help with getting the club getting going again 18 months ago, I probably wouldn't have rejoined as a member yet. I was right in the middle of motherhood. But suddenly we were virtual, and I could do it because I could close the door and I could practice around the world. And I'm just absolutely blown away that I've ended up here today, and I'm so grateful. So grateful.
Sounds like it was your destiny. Nita Yer, how about you? Was this your first attempt at the World Championship of Public Speaking?
So in my first year at Toastmasters, I competed in the International Speech Contest. And I'd done a speech, and one of my mentors, Mike Cannon-McCallum, said, I mentioned that before, he said, you need to do the International Speech. This is after my icebreaker. You need to do the International Speech Contest. And I said, of course I do. And then I went to the person next to me. I said, what's the International Speech Contest? I had no idea what it meant. So I did go in that year. And with the help of Louise Beaton, who was a contestant she was competing against me in a club, and she beat me because I competed in 2 clubs. And she was helping me. And I was very lucky in my first year, extremely lucky and fortunate to win the district and progress to the quarterfinals. I did not progress beyond the quarterfinals. And I think the first time I did it, I still don't know anything. I'm still learning, always learn. And I was still discovering the tools in the thing that is called the art of public speaking. So I was patching myself as I was competing, and I presume that's the reason why I didn't progress beyond the regionals. This year is my second year, and I think the advantage as you do it over and over again, and I can't wait to do it next year, is you don't learn, you now know the tools, and you now can experiment with the tools, and you can become a true artist in what you do. I'm not there yet, the road is still long, but this is my second year, and my second time I'm doing this, and I just can't wait for next year. I really can't.
Thank you. You seem like you're so full of energy and ready to get started already on the next speech for sure. Here's the next question from our audience, and I'll go to you again first, Nita Yair. What motivated you to keep going after your first embarrassing moment? during your Toastmasters journey?
Sorry, I'm not sure I understand the question. So, what made me go forward after the embarrassing moment, my first embarrassing moment at Toastmasters? Is that right?
I believe the person, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but they may be making the assumption that each of us have had an embarrassing moment and we've pushed beyond that.
I see, and they're not wrong. They're not wrong, and I think especially when you experiment, and all of us visited clubs. Obviously, I didn't realize that the concept of visiting clubs existed last year. It was just me and Louise essentially, and this year when I visited clubs and I tried, the time travel and I bombed so many times. It was horrible. And you just fail and fail and fail. But if you are in the mindset of, I have a message to deliver, I'm experimenting, this is an experiment ground to try different tools to push that message forward, and some of them may not work, and that's okay, but you're experimenting. And then you choose the right tools at competition, that's what drives you forward, because you understand that the feedback you get is not to destroy you, but actually to build you. And that's the greatest thing about Toastmasters, the feedback.
Thank you for that. Verity, what about you? After your first embarrassing moment during your Toastmaster journey, what helped you push through?
I would have to agree with Netaya. It's very much in this contest journey. Before this, speeches were just part of the program and I was having fun at my club, but putting myself in the spotlight as a contestant and receiving a lot of feedback and sometimes having things go wrong. I've had some low moments over the last few months, and why am I doing this? And is it any good? And then you come back to the message and I go, I'm here because I have something to say. I'm here because I believe in it. And the feedback I'm getting is going to help it get better. So I need to get over myself. I need to go back to the drawing board, do some tweaks, and then go practice at a club and be okay with things not being okay. And so for me, it really is, can I be okay with things not being okay? And if I need a bit of time to lick my wounds after a particular fall, that's all right. But it's, do I get back up? And what makes me get back up is the message, each and every time.
Oh, thank you for that beautiful share. Roger, you looked really serious there for a moment, so I think you've got something. You went to a moment in time, but what motivated you to keep going after your first embarrassing moment during your Toastmasters journey?
Well, mine would be, again, in competitive fashion. It was in 2015, and I shared this earlier at the other showcase. My grandmother had passed away 2 days before I was heading to Las Vegas for the World Championships, and I was doing a speech about her. And while I was there for the first 2 days, I was going through an array of emotions. I was doubting myself constantly, wondering why I was coming here to do this speech when I was feeling the way I was about her passing away. And then 5 minutes before going on stage, I went right into a convenience store and bought myself a mirror as a prop. Now, everybody knows you don't practice a prop on the greatest moment right there. You should be practicing this well before. And I chose to do it then. And I went on stage and I got to that part where I pulled the mirror out of my pocket and said my line, and then I went to put the mirror back and it would not go back into the pocket. And I was sitting on stage trying to play it off so much times, and then it fell onto the ground. I believe it was my grandmother saying from the heavens above, why would you do that when you knew the speech well? And I remember I was so embarrassed from that moment, but it was great people when I got back to my district that constantly was picking me up and realizing how painful that moment was for me. And even, again, a good friend of mine, Neil, he would make jokes about it, but I'm going to go with what Verity said. You have to be able to laugh about it afterwards. And that's what I was able to do. It took about 1.5 years before I was able to just go, oh, well, I dropped the mirror. And then I pushed forward, and then I did a speech about it. about dropping the mirror. So that was the easiest way to get over it. And that is what has propelled me to continue forward and just deliver speeches and know how those vulnerable moments can actually help not only the audience, but yourself.
Thank you for that share, particularly about that we as Toastmasters, we may not be wanting to compete ourselves, but what an influence that we have and what an impact that we can have on those in our club to keep going and to keep motivating. So keep on sharing those positive messages. This next question is just directed to Nita Yair. And this is, where did you get the idea of the black screen flashback?
Okay, so the approach I took this year is to focus on the art of public speaking and not on public speaking, and I'm emphasizing the art. And the way I approached it is everything starts with a message. So you have your well-crafted message, and now you're looking for tools to push it forward, right? And I thought, okay, because we're talking about art, let's look outside of public speaking. And there's different elements that happens there. And to that particular thing, I took it from 3 different art forms. One is beatboxing, because I was looking for sound for the transfer. So it's like, so that's beatbox. I found a sound that they used in movies, but I couldn't do it. So I looked at beatboxing, how they do the sound. That's how I formulated the sound. The covering of the screen and opening, I took from TikTok. I'm not a TikTok user, but I see my little sister is. She's always on TikTok. She sends me these videos, and but they edit the video. They cover the screen, and then when they open it, then on a beach, they edit the video. I said, oh, that's a cool transition. So that's from Y generation or Z generation. I'm Generation X. So that's another art form, right, of movies, editing movies. But the issue I had is, okay, how do I go from very close to the screen all the way to the back in a split second? Yeah, and that's from dance. So it's actually only 2 steps. So just this transition, which looks very simple, has 3 different art forms in it. One is from beatbox, how to do the sound. 2 is from a transition from TikTok or from media, which I'm not an expert in that. And 3 is from dance, how to do the 2 steps, which appears very quickly, taking you to the other side of the screen. So that's how I did it. How did I came up with it? I think you just need to be creative and think, okay, I don't want to just step back. Let's spice it up a little bit. And by the way, that wasn't always the transition. I had different transitions that I experiment with. This was the one that best served the message from the ones that I came up with. That's it.
Fascinating to bring in concepts from other art forms and to utilize it in this environment. Our next question will go to Roger first. What was your main inspiration for deciding to compete, and what were you expecting to get from this whole journey?
It's a good question. The inspiration to compete was, again, Sanjay Sharma. I didn't come into Toastmasters to compete. I just wanted to feel comfortable speaking in front of small crowds, in executive office, in front of those types of situations. And it was him that kind of put that, that little fire, set that fire off. And that was the inspiration that I needed. And then constantly looking at so many members in my club at the time, those who were competing that were much better than me. I would study them, look at them, learn from them, and then try to craft my own style from that. And what was your second question? I'm sorry, the second part?
It was, what were you expecting to get from the whole journey?
Just to learn more about myself, to look at other established and well-seasoned speakers. And look, we have here individuals who are very new to Toastmasters and still made it here. And they have so much to offer even for me, who's been in Toastmasters for 10 years, I'm looking at this and I am going to say it right now, Natire, I am jealous because when you did that move, I was saying, whoa, I wish I could have learned something to do in my speech when I was saying, if you've been blind by those who inspire you, I was trying to figure out something and I was like, my hand doesn't look good there like that. That was so cool. So I want to tell you that right now publicly. So, but when I see that, that's for me what it all comes down to: developing my skills, learning how to become better, and watching the very best, and we can learn from them. So that's what it is for me.
Beautiful. And I love that you shared. That's the accolades for each of, you are all in this together and you're just so supportive of one another. That I've noticed that when we were preparing for the World Championship, how supportive you all are of each other and enjoying each other's placements. Well done. Verity, over to you on that same question. What was your main inspiration for deciding to compete? What were you expecting to get from this whole journey?
My inspiration came last year when I started the Pathways journey and I did my icebreaker and I shared the story of walking on the beach with my parents and being embarrassed by them. And something in me, like this little voice, said, this could be a contest speech. And probably 2 years earlier, I remember thinking, I've been lucky to win quite a few of the other contests at district level. And I thought, you know what, the one thing I'm never going to win is the international speech contest. I just don't have a speech that works. And suddenly this voice said, I think this speech could go there. And I listened, and it has changed so much, my semi-final speech, from what I delivered at club level and all the way through. And with it came this dream of like, but what if I could go all the way? And it's been this incredible tug of war inside of me. And I try to explain it to someone. I said, this whole journey has felt like going on your first date with someone and thinking, this is the person I'm going to marry, and having clarity that this is your future, partner. And then you've still got to date them and you've still got to see if it's going to work out. So I've had this tug of war of like, maybe this could take me all the way, but I'm not sure. So for me, the journey was, I've never really pushed myself where I've had to give it everything. I've always done enough to do well in life. And this was deeply uncomfortable. This was sit down, write, rewrite, feedback, try again. And I put myself in it for that. And I put my name in the hat. And I owned that I wanted to go as far as I could. And it was so scary to even say that out loud. And I'm so grateful I did, because it's changed my life, and I know it is going to continue to change my life. So all I can say to people is, when you have that little voice that says, maybe this could go somewhere, listen and see where it takes you.
That's a good voice, isn't it, to hear that? We have those two sides, that's saying you can do it and that's saying, yeah, I don't think so. And to go in between those voices, that's the key. And you did it and pushed yourself beyond. So bravo. And we were so thankful that you did. Nitai Ayer, what about the same thing? What was your main inspiration for deciding to compete, and what were you expecting to get from your whole journey?
So I'll answer that in two parts, actually 3 parts. Last year was my first year in Toastmasters, and the first year I've done the contest. I wanted to win, and that was the wrong reason to go into this competition. Absolutely the wrong reason. This year, I said, okay, obviously the semi speech was the one that brought me to the finals. And that message was very raw and very important to me, the scars of the past. If you haven't watched it, the audience, please do. It's a message that is very important to me. And I decided to do, against all advice, remove nearly all the humor in the speech. And that's the dedication that I had to the message. I decided to focus on the message, and whatever that means contest-wise, so be it. And I looked at the contest as a platform to share that message with other people. And it started in my club, in my area, and thankfully people appreciated the message. So I focused on the message. But there's another component to it, which is the semis. I won't go too much into the details, but I nearly did not compete in the semifinals. I had some issue, and in 48 hours I was ready to pull out of the contest. And then what inspired me to do that, and I'm getting emotional just thinking about it, is Lashonda Rondo. Lashonda Rondos. I've never met her. I've only seen her speeches. And I thought, if she could do it, if she could deliver a speech, and I'm getting emotional thinking about it, I have no reason why I can't do it. There's no reason. So if you believe in your message, you're just going to do it. That's the inspiration that you need to have. And I'm very thankful that she existed and gave me that inspiration to do the Samis. Simple as that.
Well, thank you for mentioning her. She was a remarkable person, absolutely, for sure. And that wisdom about don't focus on the win, focus on the message, focus on the message. Thank you. So we have time for one more. And the question was, how did you, this one is the last question. And it's a good one. What will you do next? And we'll go with Roger first, and then Nitai, and over to Verity. So Roger, what will you do next?
I'm going to go to Disney World. I really wanted to say that, but you know what? I'm going to take some time. I'm going to take some time off. I've been competing for the majority of my Toastmasters journey. I'm going to take some time to myself and do what I love doing the most, and that is helping others to finally achieve their goals and their dreams. I know that there are so many people in District 86 and now in District 123 that I can help and get them to see what they can possibly do, what dreams they may have. So I'm going to focus on that for now. Take some time to just relax, and who knows? You never know. Maybe I might come back, maybe I won't. For me right now, it's about seeing the rest of my district that have been so supportive of me that I try to help them and the great speakers that we have in both those districts now.
Oh, thank you for that. Nitai, what will you do next?
In life or Toastmasters? That's two separate questions. I was very fortunate in the last 2 days to spend time with the family. That's something that obviously my incredible wife sacrificed in support. So I'm very, very thankful for her support. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. In terms of the Toastmasters journey, my heart is already hurting and my brain is already exploding because there's so many messages I want to bring out. So this morning I already started writing the speech for next year. And I'm actually not joking. I am fully serious. And the reason being, and this is the greatest thing about Toastmasters, because I was very shy for a long time, and you have a lot of desire inside, but when it's all locked and you're unable to express it, and then this comes this amazing platform, and that teaches you all the tools and craft how to express it. I mean, God bless, this is a blessing. I mean, how can you not want to do it? Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. We're so grateful that Brown Eyes has allowed you to have some more time with us, and that she's letting you continue to do what you've come to love. Absolutely. All right, Verity, what will you do next?
Oh, other than spend some much needed time with my family who have been missing me, I've got a lot of thank you letters to write to everyone who supported me. But taking some time back, and then in terms of my work and what I'm passionate about, my final speech has given me a whole new direction, and I'm very inspired to start working on a program that, whether I'm offering it into my clients or I'm not sure yet, it's percolating, but how to help people write a different story. And what's really exciting is it actually brings my music back to life. I walked away from my professional music career 11 years ago, and suddenly I'm seeing that my songs and the speech, there's something there. So I'm just saying that out loud because that's what's here right now. I feel like this is my next bit of work. And in terms of Toastmasters, excuse me, too much speaking. In terms of Toastmasters, it's how do I bring back what I've learned to my district, like Roger was saying. And I'm just so excited to help the other incredible speakers in Southern Africa get the opportunity to hopefully get to where I'm sitting today. So that's my commitment.
Outstanding. Thank you for sharing. We look forward to seeing that evolve and how you help others write a different story, those that are in need. Thank you so much. And thank you and congratulations again to each of our 2021 World Championship winners. You have reached this goal after many months of hard work, practice, and refinement of your speaking skills or the speaking art. Enjoy this moment because you have definitely earned it. Members and guests, thank you for attending this showcase. It's been a pleasure to have each of you here with us today.